I think we're live. Yep, it's being pulled in. What's up, everybody?
I'll tell you what, man. The makeup, it's a little tough. All the things are a little tough. I gotta get used to this. I spent all morning doing the makeup. I'm just rubbing it on my head and then trying to blend it. And then I would add too much black. And then it's like, what you learn is that it's hard to go back when you add too much black to the mix. So then you're like... and on top of it, I got to wear glasses, so I'm doing the whole thing. I look like this, which is arguably a bit better. But when you put the glasses on, it's hilarious.
Oh my goodness, that is so good. All right, just tweeted it out. Let me get it.
Your title says at NTAX.
Oh, I see. Yeah, that's fine. That's fine. That's a spooky story in itself.
That's a spooky story in itself. Speaking of spooky stories, I'm happy that Riverside is even up today, given that Amazon screwed the pooch. I was wanting to test some stuff yesterday on Riverside, and I couldn't get it to load.
Man, I think I missed that whole outage. All I saw was everybody talking about it. I think I was just happily doing my local dev and didn't see a thing about it, but it seemed like a major outage.
Didn't affect any of my stuff. It might have affected syntax.fm.
Yeah, it definitely did. We're hosted on Vercel, which is hosted on AWS. So the whole internet went down. And the funniest parts were people tweeting about their like internet connected beds going down.
Oh yeah. Oh,
it's just the future of us living in a place where your bed stops working if the internet goes down, which is absolutely hilarious. But people are piling in. Welcome, everybody. So we do this episode every single year where we do spooky development stories. These are stories that make you want to stick your hammerhead in the ground. And people submit them every year. If you have not submitted yours, please go to syntax.fm/spooky, and on probably next year we'll read it, but we collect them all year round and we read them off once every year. So I'm excited to get into it. How you doing today, Scott?
Oh, I am simply dead. I could not go outside in the sun, so I'm having a great time today. In fact, in my nice little cave here. But folks, before we do that, let's talk about something that doesn't suck. Let's talk about Sentry. Sentry.io, the perfect place to fix all of your blood-curdling, bone-chilling problems on your applications. Yes, we all know that these things pop up all the time, and it can simply make us scream. So what you want to do is head on over to Sentry.io/syntax, sign up and get 2 months for free. You can fix all of your bugs in production, all of your bugs in development, and you can do so with like the best tools in the entire world. And I say that as somebody who uses these tools every single day. So shout out to Sentry for presenting this podcast.
You know that probably about 4 or 5 of these spooky stories without our prompting this probably wouldn't have been an issue if we had Sentry enabled.
Yeah, right?
So
yeah.
Those will probably write themselves. But you want to grab the first one? Let's get on into it.
Let's grab the first one. PHP MyHeadache. On my very first job, we had a state-of-the-art tech stack. PHP backend, MySQL database, and brace yourself, PHP MyAdmin in production. We used it for everything. Browsing tables, running queries, breaking things accidentally, you name it. Oh, last of the days of PHP MyAdmin.
Man, PHP MyAdmin is like the OG SaaS, you know?
OG
like
SaaS,
if you don't want to, or not the OG SaaS, the OG like CMS.
CMS backend, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. One fine day, I decided to refresh my local database with a copy from production. Yeah, I know, solid DevOps. I opened PHP MyAdmin and I clicked the big red drop that database button and got the classic warning, "Are you sure you want to do this?" "Hell yeah, I'm sure," I said confidently. Click. 2 seconds later, and our Slack and Sentry exploded like a fireworks show of despair. Table does not exist. Query fail. Everything is on fire. My soul left my body. I had been logged into production, not local. I had just deleted the entire production database. "Hey, the site's down." "Yeah," I said with a forced smile. "Working on it." Meanwhile, one of my vacationing coworkers messaged me, probably from a beach somewhere. Hey, what the hell is happening? My phone is blowing up. Nothing to worry about. I lied through my teeth. Miraculously, I had a 5-year-old MySQL dump on
5 minutes,
5 minute,
not year.
5-year-old.
Okay,
Yeah,
major difference.
Major difference there. A 5-minute-old MySQL dump on my laptop. I imported it back into production like my life depended on it, which in sense it did. Within minutes, the site was back online. I leaned back, took a deep breath, and told my coworkers, everything's fine now. Nobody ever knew how close we came to digital extinction that day. Just imagine, you do not have a 5-minute-old backup here.
It's wild that so many of these stories are people that don't have automated backups in place. They don't have any sort of guardrails where you can just YOLO PHP MyAdmin in production. At the very least, change the background of that production PHP MyAdmin to be like red or something. If you're going to have scary places,
yeah, no kidding.
A few guardrails in place.
Okay, how many shaking bones do you give this one?
Oh man, I'm going to give that a 6 out of 7 for sure.
6 out of 7. I'll give it a 6. I'll give it a 5 out of 7. If this didn't have a backup, you could go higher on this one, but definitely one of those stomach in your pit of your stomach moments for sure.
Next one's called a browser hack. I worked for a small, literal mom and pop shop. Wife was the programmer. Husband was the designer and head of company. As my first job out of college, and it had its own proprietary CMS e-commerce platform, the classic LAMP stack. I was a jack of all trades, doing all the technical stuff from programming the front end, design work, to database and server administration. We hosted hundreds of our clients' websites on a server we rented. This was before the cloud was big, and it was obvious from my comment about the LAMP stack. Yeah, so many of these horror stories come from just shoddy PHP LAMP stack.
Yeah.
Like, not that it's a bad programming language, but just like the like hygiene around being safe with production was nothing. Everyone's just FTPing and working in production. You just YOLO-ing all. One day, our phone started ringing off the hook with a bunch of customers saying their websites weren't coming us. For us in the office, though, the sites were coming up fine. There was an utter dread for maybe half an hour, which felt like an eternity as we were struggling to figure out what was going on. Eventually, we determined that it was affecting our users below a certain version of Internet Explorer. Remember those days? After investigating further, I eventually realized I had accidentally saved a semicolon at the very beginning of a PHP file that was a configuration shared by every site on the server. As a result, a semicolon at the very beginning of the HTML for every website before the HTML tag, most browsers completely ignored it. Yeah, browsers are super forgiving about malform markup, but of course IE threw a fit about it. Fortunately, it ended up being an easy fix. We figured out what was going on. I am forever grateful I don't get nightmares from having to support Internet Explorer anymore. Literally, a semicolon took down their entire empire.
Oh,
5 trumps out of 5.
Yeah. Oh, 5 trumps. Yeah. I'm going to give this pretty scary stuff here. This will also be 5 from me. Oh! Who's here? I think I just heard a doorbell. Wes, did you hear something?
Yes, who's here?
Maybe you should check the waiting room.
Oh, are you kidding? I didn't even know about this. No chance. Please let him be dressed up.
Yarg, mateys!
Oh! No chance! No chance!
CJ!
My computer was frozen for a second. Hello. How are you doing?
Did you just casually have a pirate costume
what is that?
on?
I hear something else. What's going on here? Let's wait a second. What is that? What?
I was working in my code late last night when my eyes beheld a creepy sight, for my code was working with no reason why, and then I saw it. To my surprise, it was a hack. It was a browser hack. A browser hack. With Macromedia Flash. It was a hack.
Oh my gosh.
It really saved my ass. A browser hack. It was a browser hack.
Gentlemen, boys and ghouls, it's that spooky time of year. And in this spooky time of year, anything can happen, so I've invited our friend CJ over for a bit of trick-or-treat. And see, we all know that a well-timed browser hack can really, really save our ass. So I've prepared for you a soul-sucking game where we have 8 browser hacks. You all have to tell me, is this a real browser hack, or did I make it up? The first browser hack, the /9 trick. This targets IE 5.5 and IE 6 specifically by doing a /9 at the end of a CSS property.
Do we both get to guess?
You both have to guess.
Okay. I'm going to say that's a legit one. There was /. I don't know if 9 was the one.
I can't hear Wes for whatever reason. Riverside is messed up.
But can you hear me, Scott?
I can. CJ cannot.
Yeah,
it's all right. If
tell
you
me
can
when I
hear
should
me,
talk.
CJ,
Yeah, I can hear you, Scott.
I will tell you when you should talk. Wes says this is a real hack. CJ, what do you say?
I don't think it's a real hack. I say no.
CJ says fake. It is fake.
Yes.
Oh, but there was one, wasn't there? There was like a weird IE 5 and 6 one. Maybe. JS and CSS. You can write JavaScript inside of CSS to extend CSS's capabilities using the expression function. That's fake.
Wes says fake. CJ, what say you?
I mean, this seems really useful. Like maybe it existed somewhere and then didn't become a standard. I'm gonna say real.
This is real.
No way.
This is in all versions of Internet Explorer 5.5 and 4. Apparently, this blog post is really interesting. Apparently, it worked really well. It was just slow as hell, so people didn't use it. Real.
Fascinating.
All right, number 3.
Unbelievable.
CJ 2 for 2. Wes 0 for 2. Conditional comments used to deliver HTML or CSS to different versions of IE, if LT IE 7.
This is real. This was the move in HTML5 boilerplate. You had it and it added those conditional classes to the HTML element.
Yes. CJ, what say you?
I believe it's real. I saw Wes saying a whole bunch of stuff, but yeah, I've used this in the past. It's real.
It is, of course, real. For those of you who never worked in IE, this magic actually worked. And we used it all the time for various stuff. Even like banners that said, get the hell off this browser. All right. Number 4, the ping fix for IE6. Shim a PNG alpha in IE6 by replacing images using Microsoft's filter DX image transform Microsoft alpha image loader. Wes.
This is very much real. I actually went down a rabbit hole several years ago to figure out, like, how did that actually work? To me, it was magic at the time that it figured out how to just punch out all the alpha pixels of a PNG. Or all the, I guess, white pixels, but now I know how it works. It's very real.
CJ, what about you? What say you?
Okay, I didn't hear what Wes said. He said a lot. I'm going to say fake just because the colon in the syntax seems like that'd be hard to parse. It's real. Whoa. Okay.
Yep. Here's a CSS tricks article for it. PNG hacks from IE6. I think this article's from like 2009 or something. And this is a blast from the past for sure. All right, the comment float fix. This stops IE5 Mac from double float margins because it forced the parser into a phantom quirks neutral mode. Wes.
That you tried to make it sound like that's actually something, but IE5 was not on the Mac. There was an IE version on the Mac at one point, and I've never seen this / thing ever. This is fake all the way down.
CJ.
Real.
CJ says real. It is fake. The margin, I made that up. Margin collapse fix. This prevents IE6 from collapsing margins, which collapsing margins when you have two margins that butt up against each other. Wes, real or fake?
Margin collapse fix. Margin collapse is a thing, but the code you have that's not real. That's fake.
Wes says fake. CJ.
I'm going to say fake too.
Oh,
fake.
Prevents collapsing. Yeah, okay, good. Whew.
The star and the underscore hacks. you can use the star or the underscore to target specific browsers because I suppose it would be whatever, the progressive fallback there.
Okay, this is real all the time. My old IE knowledge is immaculate, and these are very much real. I've very much written many of those in my career.
CJ, Wes says real. What say you?
Oh, don't tell him what I said.
I now believe the syntax can be anything, so I'm going to say real too.
It is, of course, real. Wes is mad that I'm telling you what his answer was.
I just, if I could hear his mic, I would know what he said.
Well, you can't.
Okay, IE float double margin fix. When you float an element in IE, it doubles the margin. So this is that's not the real or fake part. IE actually does that. So if you do float left
really?
and then margin left, it will do 40 pixels. So the fix would be throwing display inline to fix it. Real or fake, Wes?
Wow, that sounds like something that would be real, and putting something inline also sounds like the move, because probably one of those margins is from it being box, and the extra one is because of it being floated. So I'm going to say real.
Wes says real. CJ, what do you say?
I'm going to
Stop
say it's
telling him
fake.
what the
It's too
answer is.
specific.
What CJ says fake. It is
Okay.
real. Yep, you got to do that. And thank you for joining us for Spooky Stories, real or fake.
You guys like Halloween way too much. Like, not too much, but like such impressive costumes. And mine is just like, I just grabbed one from the kids' bin like 10 minutes before this started.
CJ, thank you for joining us. You're more than welcome to stick around or go off and do whatever you have to do for the rest of the day.
I got some booty to be plundering, I guess. I don't know.
Yes.
Oh, CJ, this is a family show.
Oh, I believe I also have some booty to be plundering. Okay, so let's get into the next one, Ghost Password. So I'm a maintainer of a fairly popular NPM package. Nothing huge, but it recently crossed the 2 million monthly downloads mark. Nothing huge, 2 million
That's pretty big.
monthly. That's huge. Give yourself a round of applause, of which I was super proud of. For a long time, I was the only dev behind it until a few months ago. I even wrote in with a potluck question about how to start sharing ownership. I do remember that. Now, vampires never forget. Then, about a month ago, the spooky part started. I'm on my phone, and 1Password suddenly stopped authenticating me. You know, Face ID fails, and it asks for the master password. I type in my master password, denied. Oh, man. That's the worst. Okay, weird typo. Tried it again, denied. Little knot forms in my stomach. The next day, I tried on my Mac. Same thing. Now I'm officially locked out. I'm thinking, okay, don't panic. I'll just contact support, spend a few hours going back and forth with 1Password support team, but they're firm. There is nothing they can do on their end to help me recover the account. Is that serious, 1Password? Oh, man. And here's the kicker. The part that felt like a line from a horror movie, they told me, sir, we can confirm from our logs that your master password has not been changed in 5 years. Ooh. It was like being locked out of your own house with a butler telling me the key that I've used every day for 5 years is the wrong one. I eventually had to give up. I started the soul-crushing process of resetting every single password for every account I own. Oh my God. In the end, I managed to reset every single account except for NPM. Due to their security policy, an account cannot be recovered without the 2FA codes or the recovery codes. They tell you to save those recovery codes for a reason. Wes.
Yeah.
Do you save your recovery codes?
Yes. You should, especially your 1Password recovery codes or like your password manager recovery codes, you need to store those in the first place, and you need to store them somewhere safe because you are screwed if you lose those.
So with extreme regret, I had to say goodbye to my NPM account and package I built from the ground up. No! An open source project with millions of downloads, now orphaned because of a password I thought I knew. I feel like you're just typing in that password a little bit wrong, don't you?
Yeah,
think that,
did you see if caps lock was on, maybe?
Yeah. Or did you try from another phone or computer or something? Because, like, I know me, if I'm on, let's say, a new version of Mac OS, something might not always work the right way. I was on, like, Helium browser, and my Reddit login didn't work for 2 days, but I didn't change the password. I just tried it again in 2 days, and it worked. So
it makes me wonder if
very
this guy's... if something else spooky is going on, you know, like the guy's computer has been compromised, because like everybody right now wants to get a hold of NPM packages. And one with 2 million, if you got an NPM package with 2 million monthly installs, you are certainly being targeted. So I would probably wipe your computer because something funky is being put in between you and the sign in there. I think that's what's happening.
Yes.
Yikes.
This was very spooky.
Send us the name of it, because, yeah, that's odd.
Yeah.
But also, like, props to 1Password for not giving random people access to your account. I would not ever want them to be like, oh, sorry, I forgot it. That's the whole point of backup codes and all these awful... There's many layers of 1Password if you get locked out. And if you can't get them all, you're probably a hacker. And unfortunately, that means some good people get caught in the twine of it because they had bad password hygiene, but it's worth it.
Word. How many spooky bats do you give this one?
That one's more of like a sad one. I'm going to get that 4 out of 7 spooky bats.
This one's 8 spooky bats for me because it's very spooky, sad or not. Like sometimes
true.
Wes,
Nightmare.
things that are sad or spooky too.
That's true. That's deep. Next one we have here, just a patch. When I started web development, I did not know everything about how SQL patches were made. There were a few requests that I worked on, bugs and new features. Worked fine for me, and then I was asked to patch it up to prod. I had new tables and some extra columns on existing tables, so I thought it would patch it all up at once. So I generated a script for every object in the database, not to miss anything. Yes, drop create scripts. The boss ran it on the prod DB, and then he asked me why every table was empty. That is when I realized what I did. Fortunately, there was a fresh DB backup, and it was fixed immediately. Man, awful. There's so many of these stories where people just YOLO some script. Like, at least run it. Pull your data. If your database is not so big, pull it locally and just run it, just to check. Or a lot of like ORMs will have like a test mode where it will tell you how many things it will update.
Yeah, what the dry run or something like that. Yeah, very common. And are you one of those people? Sometimes I see the dry run option and I'm like, it's all good. I got this.
Yeah, well, I've been there as well. Even just my Home Assistant the other day, I needed to like update it, and I was like, should I back up my config? I was like, it'll be fine. It wasn't fine. Sure. I had everything go missing. Luckily, I had a backup from, I don't know, a couple months ago, but always back up before you do anything where you say, it'll be fine.
Yeah, always do that. Hey, Wes, this next one is a little bit long. I don't know if you've scrolled, but it goes on and on. So you think we should just read this in its entirety?
Did you read this one already?
Yes, it is spooky.
For the next show, I read them all to make sure they were all good. Is it worth it?
Is it worth it? Sure. Let's do it.
Yep. All right.
This is a true story.
We're recording. If it's too long, we'll cut it out.
Folks, you're getting the live feed here.
Yeah.
The live, unedited version of this. Whoa, spooky stories. Wes, I didn't hit you with any spooky voice today.
Oh,
does that make you happy? Yeah.
Oh, I can tell you I'm getting really hot in this hammerhead shark costume. My wife's always talking about natural fibers.
Yeah.
And like, don't wear plastic, folks. This is so hot.
Oh, yeah. For JS Nation, we wore space costumes, and they were like, it was like literally wearing plastic bags. I was just absolutely dying in it the whole time. Okay. This is a true story, and it happened in 2019, about 5 months before the pandemic hit. It is a catastrophic production failure that I'm 100% guilty. Keep in mind, I was still under 6 months probation inflicted upon new hire. So this was a new hire, been there 6 months, and they have committed a crime. The company I was working for at the time was releasing to a new market. With a new market comes new payment options. Of course, we wanted to allow every single payment method in every single county, right? So we had multiple conditions to build our final list of available payment methods for each particular customer. That check was done in FE. In the FE. What is the FE? Why am I blanking on it?
Finance? Front end? No, front end.
No, yeah.
Of course.
That check was done in the front end, my domain, while the implementation of the new payment method was done by a colleague in the payments team. I'll call him Steve. He was a newer hire than I was. During the whole thing, no one else could really help us, since every single senior there was too busy with some other part of the new market release. It was a whole company effort, the miracle releasing to a new market in a couple of weeks instead of months. It was me and Steve figuring out our way through microservices. We only had each other to rely on, so we pair-coded most of it. Just to add some spice to my life, the requirements kept changing. We were having issues with PayPal and Visa, so for around a little over a month, I'd get different requirements and conditions for which payment method should be available every other day.
Oh, this is a nightmare.
It's a nightmare.
I hate working with this stuff. Like, people always complain about Stripe and PayPal, and it's the reason people hate them is because they grow so large that it is impossible to figure all of this stuff out and keep it all straight as to what's available in which country.
The conditions were also fairly complicated, depending not only on the customer country, but also how many purchases the customer had done in the past. Whether it was a high-ranking customer, whether or not they had submitted documents before, whether or not the customer was considered validated. Since every time a new payment method was added, the norm had been touch as little as possible. The conditional tree was an absolute mess, with many functions scattered through the utils file, some of which had one line in them to call yet another function. Bro, we have all been there. At some point, me and my partner in crime, Steve, couldn't tell if the new payment method was showing or not under the correct conditions because it was held just to figure out what the conditions for the requirement sheets were already added and correct or not. Steve and I decided to refactor the whole thing. Beautiful. We look at it.
Can we stop there for a second? The legacy code that have been tweaked over and over and over, just every little edge case possible. It is almost never a good idea to just scrap it and start from scratch unless you have an extremely well thought out test suite covering all of these, which it doesn't sound like they did.
Even for markup. I had back in the day, I had an old HTML site that had 25 files in each directory that was index / new 20, whatever. And you'd update something, you'd be like, why isn't this right? I was not using the right one or whatever. And I decided to refactor that, and that was a nightmare too. And that was just straight up HTML and CSS. Okay. We looked at each other and say at the same time, screw it. We yanked out the whole component, gutted the so-called conditional tree. We burned the utils file to the ground, and we added tests when there were none. Days of pair programming, blood, sweat, and tears, and all that's left is to confirm in the staging server. I have cobwebs on my mouse pad, and it keeps messing up my scroll. I'm going like this every single time. Then I lose my spot because this one's so long. Okay. We hit a couple of simple problems. First, we couldn't properly validate test customers, so we set it to manual. We use a forced response that had to be configured in certain test API. Everyone else was also testing stuff in that same staging server, and forced validation was getting in the way of the customer validation API tests. Again, Steve looks at me like he's saying, we are nice to everyone who's going to be nice to us. Again, we go screw it. We hard-coded the customer is validated in the front end. Hard-coded that the customer is validated. Fine. Sure. They're all validated. This is the first fork in the validation tree, and if the customer was not validated, no payment method is available. We check, double check, triple check every situation, every country, every possibility in that FSM is accounted for, and we see and document everything is working, and we test as far as we can test. See, there was another little thing. We couldn't complete payments with this new method because there was a test API for that method, and it never made it into the documentation. Steve and I couldn't find a single soul who knew about it. Maybe they were a spirit. Time was running out. This was Wednesday morning. We had to push to code before 3 p.m. There was one test left to run. The case where the customer is not validated. The customer validation guys are still testing their code, so we can't use the forced response API again. We go screw it, and we hard-coded the whole thing. 15 minutes to deploy the code again to the staging server. We look at it. We see it's working. We harass both of our teams to get the PR containing all of the back-end and front-end modifications approved. Another 15 minutes merge to master, another 15 minutes to merge to production, and we are done. The release party is about to start. Crack open some brewskis, right? Boss drags us all into the party lounge. Get in here, boys. I bring the laptop to the party because my name was on the production of deployment, so I was ready to be on call, monitoring certain channels, error logs for at least 2 hours. Steve brings his laptop, we grab a couple of beers, and split the task of monitoring. We sip our beers, we laugh, we talk about how crazy it all was, and we bask in the light of how much we managed to simplify that code. Then, we see the curve showing payments transaction activity flatline. That is like the people who don't know, if you work in payment processing anything, the moment that you make code changes and then all of a sudden in the actual payments window you see a flat line, you are go into panic mode immediately because you goofed something up, right? I look at Steve, he's as pale as a ghost. I'm as pale as a ghost, hands shaking. We go to the logs and try to find an inkling of a clue what the crap is going on. There are no errors, nothing crashing. We dig deeper. We enable debug in production, knowing full well we might just crash a couple of services. We see a bunch of logs. Customer not validated. Exiting out. I bang my head on the table a couple of times. I know, I say carefully. Steve, confused, just staring at me. I open the front-end code and it dawns onto him. Crap, we forgot to hard-code the thing, didn't we? Classic.
Oh no.
He bangs his head on the table a couple of times. We look around to see if anyone had noticed. Everyone was partying. I create the PR. We change one Boolean from false to true. Steve quietly approves. I try to breathe deeply while looking at Jenkins, feeling those 15 minutes stretch out over an eternity. I reach out to another beer, and split second, I crack the beer open. It goes, psst, pop. I feel a hand on my shoulder. I look up, and I nearly gagged. It was our CTO. Oh, CTO means business. I feel out my soul leaving my body as he says calmly, please don't drink and deploy. My brain was still trying to process it when the CTO bursts out laughing and leaves. Steve looks at me. We are so fired. We cheer with our beers as the deployment finishes. We drink and celebrate our own little party as the payment transaction curves go up. Oh man, we both had to sit through a postmortem of shame later that month to get scolded on how many millions exactly the company lost in this hiccup. Bro, if that loss is a milli or higher, that's a scary situation.
That's scary, but also
situation.
like if you have that much traffic and that much payment, unbelievable that gets through. But I think it's all too common, these stories.
Not just unbelievable that gets through, but unbelievable that gets through and gets put on the shoulders of a 6-month-old hire. That's a process failure right there. A 6-month and a less than 6-month-old hire. Oh, man. No,
Awful.
We didn't get fired because of that incident. The shame of sitting in that postmortem was probably more traumatizing than being fired. The incident caused a solid bond between us. He was my favorite colleague until he left. Wes, I give this one a good 7. A good 7 creepy crawlies because if it starts with 1 million, that bumps it up in the
No
higher
kidding.
than 7 territory.
When the stakes are this high and the stories are so funny, it's a 10 out of 10 for me.
It's a 10 out of 10.
And like, if there's anything that helps you get your deploys down to be as fast as possible, it's stuff like this, where you know the fix is in, or you hope the fix is in, but you got to sit there for half an hour while you wait for the thing to deploy and be pushed through, because like some of these sites are down and hopefully you can cut back. But it sounds like this was such a big one that there was no rolling back and you could only fix forward.
Yes. By the way, these fangs are digging into my lip, and I'm going to have like
awful
actual poke marks in my lip when I'm done. I got to take
real
these things
blood,
off,
folks. This is not makeup.
It's about to be. I'll tell you that. That's about to be.
All right, last question or last story we have for this episode, and then coming up on Wednesday we have a full hour of them as well. Plenty of them. Is called Discount. You get a discount. And you get a discount, and everybody gets a discount. I work for a large company that offered multiple subscription-based products. Man, these ones, I like the ones where the database goes away, but I really like the ones where real money is involved.
Oh,
and
yeah.
I really, really like the ones where products go out before they realize that's a problem. My task was to implement a discount feature in the CMS so that a content editor could add discounts to a product. Everything was tested and deployed to production without a hitch. Until 12 hours later, someone discovered that each and every product now had a discount. Products that had no discount set up used the first available discount in the list. And it happened to be conveniently sorted from high to low. This was a cause of an API in our CMS that returned a field such as object.discount.value, but my code only checked if object.discount exists, which always was the case. It's true. An empty object is truthy, folks. Although the financial loss was very extensive, my boss was relaxed about it and understood that mistakes happen. When I eventually left the company years later, I got a postcard with the actual Oprah "You Get a Car" meme as a goodbye gift. Oh, sometimes you see these like pricing errors and people like freak out. Like Abercrombie had a major pricing error maybe about 6 months ago, and I'm still not sure if it was a pricing error or if it was just like a intentional like marketing campaign. But when those pricing errors go out, it's nuts. Like once when I was in university, we found a coupon. In Canada, we had this website called Red Flag Deals, and anytime there was a pricing error or a coupon or a good deal, it would go up on that website and people would just destroy it. So we had this one that was $5 off $5. So we went around to it was called Pharma Plus, like a CVS in Canada.
Yeah.
We went around to every Pharma Plus because we're a college student and we have more money than brains, or sorry, more time than money in brains.
Yeah, right. Yeah.
And we went to every single one and bought $5 worth of stuff, and then went back in and bought $5 worth of stuff and just kept doing it until they stopped us, and we just went to the next one. And I got like maybe like $100-$200 worth of like deodorant and chips and all this hilarious stuff. And I feel bad now looking back, like some poor guy pushed that coupon out on a Friday afternoon. It was a Friday, and just went home for the day, and then they by like Sunday morning they had stopped it, but like it was running rampant.
Yeah. One thing I always laugh about is when people are like talking about software bugs and like sports apps or something. They're like, ESPN thinks this player plays for this team. So I was like, no, ESPN doesn't think that. It's like some poor intern who pushed a wrong value in the app, and all of a sudden, it's like, some poor person is like now like getting the heat of the whole company because of that, even though it's like a insignificant little thing, right?
Well, at least you give us a laugh. Many of these stories people send us years later after the PTSD of the event has done. Man, I am hot in this shark costume. But so that's the end of the first one. Should we just keep rolling? Because I don't want to end the live stream.
No, we'll keep rolling, but let's at least wrap the episode. Well, thank you, folks, for joining us on this first spooky tales of spooky web developer stories, where we found real scary situations that real developers found themselves into. We will catch you on Wednesday with a full hour, for this was just a first taste, the first bite of these spooky stories.
Out.
Peace.
Just kidding. It's just a costume. I didn't get eaten. Oh, yeah. I was going to ask that. You actually recorded that song? Like, that didn't sound like AI. That was really good.
Would you like to hear it again? Folks, this song was not AI. I recorded this myself.
Play it. I'm going to grab a drink. One sec.
Okay. This was not AI.
I was working in my code late last night when my eyes beheld a creepy sight, for my code was working with no reason why, and then I saw it to my surprise.
It was a hack.
It was a browser hack
A browser hack.
with Macromedia
It
Flash.
was a hack.
It really saved my ass.
A browser hack.
It was a browser
Is
hack.
that you doing the highs?
Yeah, that was me doing everything. I did one take on all the vocals, and then I did a second or third take to do some harmonies and backups. But yeah, that was me singing everything. No auto-tune, folks. I was just singing it. So sometimes I forget that I was a music major. Sometimes I forget about that. It was a different life.
That is very good. I don't have any sort of talent like that.